Hi, I'm Jack Canfield, and welcome to another segment of Talking About Success. I'm here with Jennifer Hammond. You may have heard her on Sirius XM Radio. She has the Jennifer Hammond Show. She is a real estate expert, and more than that, you're really a counselor at a very high level and someone who cares deeply about people. I heard that you started applying the success principles in my book to real estate. I was really excited when I heard that. Tell me, how did that come about?
You know, it came about because I realized that those principles could be applied to any aspect of your life. And what I found is as you applied that, and I taught some of my clients, because I'm also a licensed real estate agent, I taught them to apply it as well. I started seeing these amazing results. And that is so fulfilling to see somebody be able to, like your first principle, take 100% responsibility for their situation. Then they can change the outcome of a situation. They may be facing a foreclosure or a short sale or some terrible tragedy in real estate right now. It's been such a roller coaster ride. But if you took 100% responsibility for your situation, then you don't blame anyone else. Now it's just about finding the solutions.
Now, before we came on air, you shared with me a story about a man, I think it was, who called in and was talking about wanting to move from his neighborhood. Share that story. I think that was really interesting.
This was really interesting, where a gentleman called and he said, you know, that he had noticed that in his neighborhood, things had started going downhill and the real estate values were going downhill. And this, he said, you know, was an indicator that really frightened him, and he thought you should go ahead and sell the house as quick as possible. And he wanted to know my opinion. Should you sell it now, or should I wait a year until it gets a lot worse? And I said, wait a minute. Again, take 100% responsibility for your neighborhood, because if you care about your neighborhood, instead of abandoning it, take responsibility for it and figure out a way that you can make the values go up. This may be that you actually have a music program in a neighborhood. It may be that you need to find out what's happening with the vacant houses in that neighborhood. Why are they vacant? Could they be sold? Is there some reason that that park down the street ended up going into disrepair? Look around your neighborhood and see if there's a way you could take 100% responsibility. Don't just abandon it and say, well, that area is a bad one. Because if we all come together as communities, then what we really realize is that we can make any area better, because we're stronger when we're together. When we help each other, we can make it better. So my advice to that guy was, don't move out of that neighborhood. Find a way to make it better, and not only for yourself, but for every other person that lives in that community.
Well, if everyone in the world did that, can you imagine what would happen?
It would be totally different.
I was just thinking, you know, when we're afraid, it's fight or flight, or fix.
Yep.
See, we can come in here and do something different. Now, I know there's a lot of aspects of what you do that affects people in a lot of different areas. We were talking about the military.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit. What are some of the challenges that the military families find in terms of real estate, and what are perhaps some of the solutions that you share with people?
Well, one of the things that's happening with military families is a lot of times they've been given orders to be relocated, but their house is now underwater where they are. So they're being forced into doing a short sale or some kind of foreclosure or even bankruptcy sometimes, because they have to go to their new job. Otherwise they would lose their job and then they can't pay a mortgage at all. So they're being forced into these tragic situations. But what happens is then that goes on their credit report. And when that goes on their credit report, then they can get demoted in the military. Or, like for instance, if they have a security clearance, if it goes on their credit report, they can end up having their security clearance taken away from them. So what are some of the solutions? There are solutions out there. Number one is you want to be able to work with the bank and be able to tell the bank what's happening. Sometimes that actually requires getting a real estate lawyer to do some negotiating for you, because you are relocating because of your work. It's not because of a whim. Oh, I want to live in Hawaii. So you're just moving. So you're not being irresponsible. You're actually, as a military person, you're moving because your job is forcing you to. So again, another thing that happens is sometimes divorces, because then one spouse will end up relocating for work and then somebody's left behind. And then they live in two different cities for a long time till it breaks up a family. So again, you look for the solutions, and one of those solutions is going to the bank, getting a real estate lawyer, and finding a way to negotiate. You can negotiate for a loan modification. You could there are all sorts of like short sales that you can do where it doesn't go on your credit report. You can also, like right now, there's a tax forgiveness that the the Congress has given for one more year. There's all sorts of different solutions out there. But part of it is goes back to your first principle. Take 100% responsibility for what's happened to you and communicate it. Just like a military officer can also communicate it to their commanding officer and say, this is what's happening. This is the situation. Are there any other solutions that you have that I could use, or other resources? Because the VA has many resources for people that are in the military, but it's very often not known that those resources are there.
I think it's really interesting that almost, the American dream is buy a house,
Yeah.
And raise your kids and all that good stuff. And so most people go through this at some point in their life. Most people are ignorant about it because it's not being taught in schools. We have financial illiteracy. We also have real estate illiteracy for sure. So before we tell people how to get in touch with you and find out more about it, is there anything else you'd like to say to just, let people know how important this is, or something that would be valuable for them?
I do. I think it's so important to just take the time to really build a team around you that can help you actually make good decisions in real estate. I call it your A team. It could be your team of advisors. Sometimes I say it's your awesome team. This is the team of people like your real estate agent, your tax advisor, your real estate attorney, a home inspector. These people, if you have this team around you, this team can really actually help you make good decisions, which prevents you from making mistakes. Because so often we blindly go into buying some real estate, but we haven't really looked at all of the different pros and cons, including the tax ramifications of what would happen, and looking at the worst case scenario if you carry that out 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or if my job changes. So actually building an A team around you, I think, is so important to being able to make good decisions in real estate.
Okay, so let's say you're 25 or to 30 years old, somewhere in there, and you're going to build your A team. How do I do that?
You start one person at a time. Then there's 10 people that should be on this A team. And you start, like for instance, you would start with interviewing a real estate agent. And that's one of the things I give away for free on my website, is how should you interview a real estate agent? No matter where you are in the United States, you should interview that person. You're hiring them to do a professional service for you. And so often people never interview their real estate agent. They just take a recommendation or they find somebody online, but they never actually have an interview. So you want to make sure that one person, each person at a time, you interview them, and then make sure that they'll also work with the other members of your A team. Because if they don't work together, then it's not really going to give you the answers that you need to be able to make good decisions in real estate.
So you approach them and say, hi, I'm thinking about buying a house in the near future, or I'm going to be buying several over time. I'm putting together a team. I'd like to interview you to see if I want you to be on my team.
Exactly.
Pretty much it?
Yeah.
Then, okay, they're very cool. I like that. Not more difficult than
Exactly.
It's easier than it sounded at first. I always have to play the part of my audience and go, okay, if I'm sitting out there, what would I be thinking? I don't know how to do that. But you just made it very simple. Very cool.
Thank
now,
you.
you mentioned you have resources on your website. You mentioned one of them was how to interview a real estate agent. What else?
I have another one that's a report on solar panels. It's a free report. It's 10 pages, and it tells you how you can get solar panels on your home for no cost.
Well, way cool.
That's a huge thing. So, and that's one of the ones that's really important. I have another one, which is the top 10 real estate apps. We all say there's an app for that. So we're all using our smartphones all the time, and that's one of the first ways that people are looking for real estate. So what are the most important apps that you could use to make you a knowledgeable person so that you're making good decisions in real estate?
Very good. So if someone wants to reach you, wants to get your reports, where do they go?
They go to my website at Jennifer H. Realty. So that's Jennifer with 2 N's, Jennifer, H for Hammond, and then realty.com.
Very good. Very good. Well, that was great information. Thank you very much. So don't go through life being ignorant about real estate. That's one of the things that really part of all of our lives is owning a home, perhaps several homes over time, moving around. And this lady is the woman that's a go-to resource. So stick around. We'll be right back, and don't go away.